This is the Morning Drive. It's Mira Business FM. I'm Tim Elliott. Welcome to an hour talking about, I guess longevity is overall the theme. Aly Rahimtoola is the founder of Bien-Etre, French for well-being, he assures me. It's a UK-based consumer tech that uses DNA biomarkers with lifestyle AI data to deliver personalized solutions. Okay, we'll unpack that in a moment. But Aly, first of all, very nice to see you.
Good to see you, Tim. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. We met years ago. I was looking at your name yesterday, and I thought, I know this name. I didn't have a picture of you. And we met 10 years ago, 12
Must be,
years
exactly.
ago.
In a former life.
Yeah, and definitely in another life here. But this is what you're doing now. Can you just unpack what I said there about tech that uses DNA biomarkers with lifestyle AI data to deliver personalized solutions? Because, I'm a simple soul. I don't know what that means.
It's a mouthful. Let me put it very simply. Bien-Etre is a platform. It's a consumer health platform that is aimed at promoting longevity and health span.
Yeah.
Now, everyone talks about longevity. Every second person is talking about health span. But what does it actually mean?
Yes.
The core philosophy is, if you think about health and wellness, it's always been reactive. You get a cold, you get sick, you need to go and see a doctor. We believe that if you can actually get ahead of the curve, start measuring your metrics, your biomarkers, your body, you can actually start taking preventative steps so that you actually stay healthier longer and you avoid some of the pitfalls that may happen later in life, because you do get age-related disorders as you get older.
Yeah, I mean, things happen in life, and this is really, in many ways, this is the direction that the medical profession is increasingly starting to take. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about you, because when we met, you were running a skincare?
It was a skincare brand, yes.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. I don't come from the kind of consumer world. My background was, I was an investment banker in New York in the early 90s. I moved to Dubai in the mid-90s, where a lot of people were like, where are you moving to? And I worked for my family shipping business for a couple of decades. And then I had an idea to build a skincare brand. And in the course of building that, I learned a lot. And a lot of that actually shapes what I'm trying to do now. Because if you just think about consumer products, whether it's skincare or supplements or anything, the whole industry has been built on averages. You know that old standard deviation, that old bell curve that none of us paid attention to in school, right?
I do.
I certainly didn't. But if you think about it, everything is based on those averages, right?
Yep.
Even when you go to a doctor and they send you for blood work, they'll have a reference range, and that's based on averages.
Yeah.
But the wonderful thing about life is we are all unique. Tim, you are you, right? Your son, who's at uni, as you said, right?
Yeah.
He's you. He's got your DNA, it's your son, but he's got his own lifestyle, his own thing.
He's very much himself. Aly.
Absolutely. And same for all of us, right? Even siblings. So the thought process that I had while building the skincare brand was, we need to move beyond the one size fits all.
Right.
And thanks to data, thanks to AI, thanks to science and diagnostics and something called multiomics, which is to do with genomics, we can process information a lot faster and deliver a personalized plan.
Well, this is the thing. It's now much more about, okay, you come to me for your skincare, this is the cream, and this will probably work, okay. It'll probably be good. But now you're increasingly seeing, in skincare, for example, formulations of things for different skin types, for different ages, and it's about tailoring, isn't
Absolutely, because look, whether it's skin health or whether it's supplements for performance in terms of strength training or in the gym, everything changes on a daily basis, right? It's your status as a human being is a kind of factor of multiple influences, right? It's the environment, it's the stresses you have, it's your DNA, it's something called your epigenetics, which is actually how you're performing now, which is different from your DNA. And effectively, if you can measure that, you're in a much better position to take action that then suits you, because at the end of the day, you are unique to you. And so the biggest learning I had is that people are unique. People want wellness. I think the one thing that COVID-19 showed all of us is that you can have all the money in the world, you can have the fancy yacht in Dubai Marina, you can have the big house in Emirates Hills, but if you don't have your health and wellness, it really doesn't count for anything. And I think, therefore, there's been a growing awareness post-COVID that people need to invest in their wellness from a preventative point of view. And the biggest data is in the US, is younger people. I mean, look at how wearables have been adopted. I reckon if you go and take 100 people in a room in Dubai, I reckon 60 to 70% will have some form of wearable trackable device. So the adoption of measuring is not a new concept. And all we're trying to do is extend that to your body, to your biology, to your biomarkers, and then come up with solutions. And we have a couple of very innovative solutions for that. Because the biggest thing that is driving me, and my pet peeve, is there are plenty of longevity health concierges in Dubai, right? So I'm not inventing the wheel, right?
No.
But I want to make it accessible. I want to democratize it. You don't need to be a trillionaire in order to go and get your results and the action you need to take. I firmly believe, and we've done that. We've been able to do that because we work with some of the leading labs in North America. We've worked out a great system where we use their economies of scale, their muscle, in order to offer very affordable membership plans for longevity, wellness.
All right. So I want to come to, the mechanics of how
Sure.
this works in a little while. But I'm interested in when did it hit you that this was where you wanted to be? Was there a eureka moment where you thought, no, longevity is where it's at? Or was there a life event that made you think,
I don't think it was a
this?
life
What was
event,
it?
but it was in course of building the skincare. One of the things is, you look and you walk into any department store or pharmacy. This is while I was still very much in the skincare world.
Right.
And most of the products are the same. They all have their marketing. They all have shiny new bottles, but deep down, as an insider, and I'll probably be hated by the skincare industry for this.
Well, you've just done it anyway, so you
Well,
might
I
as
am.
well be
That's fine.
hated.
And I'm out of it anyway. I'm now in wellness and longevity. But the reality of it is, most of it is the same. But the key thing is, it's actually the audience. For the reasons I said earlier, we're all unique. So, a moisturizing cream for dry skin will have a completely different impact on two people who have dry skin. And that was the eureka moment, that we're all unique. It has to be personalized.
Okay.
So I had got selected. There's a wonderful organization in the UAE called Endeavor, which is a non-profit organization. It's got chapters around the world, and I was lucky enough to be selected for that. It supports high-impact, high-growth entrepreneurs, and for some reason, some people think I was that. They sent me off to Stanford Business School for a 2-week entrepreneurs course, and it's a completely different way of thinking out there in the West Coast, right? And I met some of the most amazing genomics professors, and they said, our world of data and science is moving towards your world of consumer wellness. And so I suddenly acquired, completely separately from the skincare brand, because I saw the opportunity, very opportunistic. I remember calling my wife saying, how much do we have in the joint bank account? Because I want to buy a database of biomarkers.
I love the way that you called the boss. What's
Absolutely.
in the account?
Absolutely. And I got, but actually I do trust her instincts. And she said, you know what? Personalization, because people are so confused what to buy.
Yeah.
So there is an element there. So I got the blessing and did it. And then I've spent the last few years developing it quietly to the point where we've added business verticals. We're starting now, not with skincare actually, we're starting with something called NAD, which is basically the most vital enzyme in your body. And you're now going to ask, what does it stand for, correct?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Okay, this is a mouthful. Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide.
I knew that.
Yeah, okay, well you did, but having been in the industry, I still call it NAD, right?
Right.
And NAD is effectively an enzyme that runs through your body. It's your cellular fuel, right? It actually converts your food into energy, right? So think about your body if you're a car, right? You need fuel to function, otherwise you're not going anywhere.
Sure.
So this governs over 500 metabolic functions. And here's the sad thing about it. As we age as humans, we run it down just like a battery. And the shocking statistic is between the ages of 40 and 50, you lose half of the NAD you're born with,
Oh,
which probably explains why people start having that chronic age-related, the stereotype life begins at 40, but also your backache also begins at 40.
it coincides with another thing, and I have to get up to do this. It's that thing when you're like, it's the noise you make when you sit down. It hits
Yes.
around the mid-40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may not be NAD, but the point of the matter is it's your fuel tank. And
Yeah.
the simple medical fact is without NAD in your system, you're not on this planet any longer. That's what happens. So surely you need to measure your NAD, your cellular fuel. You're not going to set off in your car to drive from your studio to Abu Dhabi without knowing how much fuel you have in your tank. Would you?
Generally not. It may have happened that I've run out of fuel once or twice.
Yeah, you'll be stuck on Shahama waiting for a jerry can. I know that.
I tend to run on fumes sometimes, but you're right. You're right.
Yeah. So what we're bringing to this market is a unique at-home blood prick test, which it takes 5 minutes. It's painless. It's no different than a glucose test. We just prick your finger, draw some blood spots into a card, send it back to us. We do everything for you as part of the plan, and then you get about a week later your score.
Okay.
And that will tell you where your levels are. Then you can start taking the proper actions. One of my pet peeves since developing this and launching it in the summer here, and can be moving back to Dubai, I was away for a few years, is everyone knows about NAD, right? They talk about NAD. Not everyone, a lot of people do. And they say, oh, we take this drip or we have an injector pen. Thanks to certain weight loss drugs that I won't mention by brand, everyone loves to stab themselves, right? Well, you know what? You do that because you've been given medical advice.
Yes.
So why would you take an NAD drip, or why would you take an NAD injector pen, or why would you take an NAD supplement, which is a food supplement, because you can build your levels back up and maintain them, without measuring it? The trick is...
That's a fair point.
Right, but here's the catch, and this is where I think we are onto something quite interesting. NAD, there's two types. There's intracellular NAD, which is in your cells, which is the stuff that actually does the work, right? That's the fuel. And then there's NAD called circulating NAD, which is in your bloodstream. The problem is that's mixed in with plasma and all the other yucky bits. If you take the whole 100% quantity of NAD you have, 95% of it is in your cells, 5% of it is in your bloodstream. So going to a hospital to do a full blood draw is actually fairly meaningless. You don't get an accurate measure of your intercellular NAD.
Right.
But you do with us, because we work with the leading expert on intercellular NAD in the States.
All right then. So let me play devil's advocate for a moment.
Yeah.
If I'm listening to this and I'm hearing all of these are long words, NAD, the explanation for that, it's intracellular and all of these things. I'm thinking to myself, as a cynic, what's the science behind this? Where, if you come from a skincare background, where are the doctors involved? Where are the medical professionals?
On my board. So I have got, as you can see, maybe the listener doesn't, enough grey hair to know from experience of various businesses.
Sure.
If you don't know, you don't guess. Just like you don't guess your NAD. So I've surrounded myself with experts. So I won't name them, but the leading expert on NAD in North America is a professor who's been responsible for over $100 million of grant funding on NAD research and published 400 papers. He sits on my scientific board. It's his CLIA laboratory that we use. That's the highest standard, right? And the plan is actually as a joint venture to open up the lab here next year so that the turnaround time will go from 7 days down to 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
So that's what we're working on. The other expert on the longevity that I have is a British gentleman who has been in America for 20 years and is one of the leading experts on genomics. One of his posts was he was head of GSK, Glaxo Genomics. So I've surrounded myself with experts and I've learned from them. And many a time I've sat in a meeting or a Zoom call and I've been like, kind of underneath the table, kind of, okay, these guys are talking about stuff that makes sense to me, but I need to understand it. And that famous ChatGPT Pro version, I must add, underneath the table. But I've read about it. I've educated myself.
Right.
I wouldn't dare to bring something to market that I wouldn't understand. I think that would then be dangerous for my business, but it'd be dangerous for everyone. So it's taken a couple of years to develop. It's not that I had the idea and I woke up in April, oh, let's launch this. This is going to be a fun new venture. It's been a labor of love the last couple of years.
Well, it's new territory, this longevity, for lots of people, and I guess in licensing terms, it's kind of new territory as well. What was the process to license the business here in the UAE? How did that work?
So we work with where everything is licensed. We offer supplements that boost your NAD levels once you know.
Right.
That's regulated by the Dubai municipality, the old Montaji registration.
Okay.
It took some time, but we got it done. So all the supplements that we will ever offer through our platform are always licensed and approved. These are all, to be said, they're not medical. They're food, they're dietary supplements. There's no different than going down to the local pharmacy and buying them, but they're all licensed. And then in terms of the blood collection, that is also approved. We work with an approved DHA medical laboratory that is allowed to do that. We're talking about partnerships which I'm not allowed to say yet, but it will be announced in the next week. A couple of very large health clinics who actually love what we're doing, and we will be providing them with the NAD optimization plan for them to then put out to their audience or their patients and network.
Which will inspire confidence, I guess.
But we're also available online as well if you come to our website for those that are a lot of people who are longevity aficionados, right?
Sure.
And they so if they don't want to go through one of our accredited partners, one of the clinics, they're welcome to come onto our platform.
Okay. Well, this is, I mean, the thing is with longevity, it is a thing. This is not a fad. This is next generation kind of optimization of, personal health, isn't it? I was reading some notes last night about this, thinking about, the things I wanted to ask you. Jeff Bezos has invested $3 billion in Altos, the labs there, hasn't he? So there's clearly more to this. Then if you think back a month or so ago, the Russian and Chinese presidents caught on a hot mic discussing longevity and, living longer. This is a thing that is coming. So in many ways, it's to be expected, but it is also it's kind of a radical reworking of the way that we consider healthcare. Because as you say, catch a cold, go to the doctor, get some antibiotics, probably that you don't need. We shouldn't be taking as many. I know that. But it's not, we don't collect data and think, well, that could point to this, this could point to that. And if you can diagnose far earlier, it would be far better for the system, certainly financially, certainly emotionally, certainly in terms of well-being.
Well, I think there's a few points you touched upon that kind of have gone through my mind, and I'll try to keep it simple. From a simple primary health point of view, right? So in UK terms, your old GP, right?
Yes.
The OECD recommends a ratio of 1,500 people for every primary care physician. Now, it's all very well building polyclinics and hospitals, and the region is building a lot of hospitals. It's part of Saudi's Vision 2030, and I know the UAE government is very passionate about building hospitals, and so they should. But ultimately, you need physicians to staff them. And it typically takes, 8 to 10 years to train as a primary care physician? And then you probably need a couple of years of experience in order to be able to sit with patients properly, correct?
For sure.
So from a numbers point of view, right, let's talk big GCC point numbers. The region at the moment has about 60 to 65 million people, right? The number of people over the age of 40, which is typically when people start having your age-related disorders, right, ARDs they're called, is about a third. So there's about 20 million people who are getting old and need to think about preventative wellness, okay?
Sure.
The average income in the region, and this is average, is about $70,000. Now, not everyone per year, right? Not everyone makes that, but compared to other parts of the world, it is a fairly affluent region. But if you can actually start using preventative diagnostics, right, stuff that we have, to suddenly start doing kind of preventative health, you suddenly start cutting down on the number of doctors you need. Because if you do the simple numbers, this region is short of primary care physicians. and you can bring them and you can offer them attractive packages from a public health point of view, but you're always going to be short of doctors. That's the reality, and also lifestyle factors, right? Amazing things are being done by governments. We're in Dubai 30 days of fitness, right? So there's wonderful initiatives, but deep down from a public health point of view, where I see this going is if you can't use the data, the science, the diagnostics, and the AI to create that primary, think of it as a triage, catch things early or warn people, hey, I've done a lot. So one of the tests we have, I've talked about NAD, which is live now.
Yes.
Q1 will be launching what's called a longevity test, which is a preventative checkup. And what is that? You have your DNA, which is what you're born with, which is effectively your blueprint. That your DNA doesn't change, right?
Sure.
But your epigenetic test, that changes. So, in schoolboy parlance, your DNA is kind of your cat for what you're capable of, but your epigenetics is your report card. And I know certainly about thinking back to my time, my report card was not nearly close to what my CAT4 score should be, right? But if you think about it, it allows you to then look at the insights. It allows you to say, hey, Ali, you need to look at your liver health, or you need to look at your kidney health. Suddenly, we want to work with the medical community. I just want the people to use that data and go then straight to the specialist. So go to the kidney expert or go to the endocrinist if you have a liver issue, and you're armed with the data to have a proper discussion. We will never replace doctors. We don't want to, but we want to make their workload easier. Recent reports published in the States show that most primary care physicians spend most of their time doing paperwork and admin.
The documentation is huge in this, and there's clearly a great deal of waste in the medical profession in all areas across the board. But one of the things about this, Ali, is I think it's kind of a sea change in attitude.
Correct.
To healthcare, and that's the educational aspects and the procedural aspects of understanding that we are data driven now, whether we like it or not. We all are, and that has to be encouraged, inculcated, drummed into us, drilled into us, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's still going to take some time.
It will take time. It's not going to happen, in an instant. But if you don't start sometime,
the best way to start is just to start,
isn't it? Right?
I suppose, yeah.
And, we're an early stage business. We need the support. We're striking partnerships with people here and in Saudi who really like the vision and the strategy. We're always open to work with people because for us, it's not a case of, I want to take this market share. It's not about market share as a business. It's about, if I do my job well, we will become an integral part of the healthcare system. We're using technology to make people have happier lives. Because one thing I want to touch upon, if we've got time, is that, on longevity, there's a lot of people out there who are quite famous who talk about, I want to live to 100, I want to live to 120. We don't believe in that at Bien-Etre. It's very simple. You will be on this planet for as long as your maker deems it. But if you look at the percentage of your life, most people live to 80, 85. If you break this down into quarters, like a game of American football, the first 25% of your life is about being educated. The next 25% is about starting a job, meeting the meaningful partners and friends that will formulate the core of your friendships for life. The third is typically building something, a legacy, right? Whether it's savings, whether it's a business, whether it's doing research if you're a researcher, right? Leaving some legacy. And typically the last 25% of your life, which is typically the last 20, 25 years, people start having age-related disorders, correct?
Yeah, and unfortunately that is the case, yeah.
That's not fair. So by using diagnostics, by using the data and the knowledge out there, we want to bridge that health span. Do you see what I'm trying to get? There's no reason why someone who's worked all their life, they've slogged, they've scrimped, they've saved, they've paid the mortgage, they've educated their kids, they hit 65, they should say to their partner and say, come on, let's go to Kilimanjaro, let's climb it. Not, I can't get off the sofa because my knees creak. That's the mission.
Do you know the surprising thing about this is that it's taken this long for longevity to kind of take a hold? Because if you look back 150, 175 years, we were living till 35, 40.
Correct.
Really. So in that time, our lifespans are 70, 80 as an average, as an international average.
Yeah.
I suppose that's
But
probably
Tim, the
fair.
healthcare system hasn't caught up. It's been reactive.
Well, that's the point, and that's what's surprising.
And that's what we're trying to achieve.
Okay. So we can do much better. That's where you come in, I guess. Let's talk a little bit about numbers here, because the numbers are staggering. The global wellness market is estimated in trillions. I've read 6.3 trillion. That's an older number as well.
I've read higher and I've read lower. I don't think anyone can estimate it,
You
because it's
don't
what you
really know.
define as wellness as well, right?
Well, that's the other thing. The definitions are tough. But, it's mainly so far kind of generalized treatment, so limited efficacy across, populations.
Sure.
So the MENA wellness economy is estimated in the hundreds of billions right now, and this is a nascent industry. I think that's fair to say. It's a sizable pie that you're kind of hoping to take a slice of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you quantify some of those numbers and some of the aims
So
from
look,
your point of view?
what I've told our investors, I've got investors. I am the founder. I'm the majority shareholder, but obviously I've raised capital to get to this point. Is in 3 years, going back to the numbers I said in the GCC region of targeting the 20 million people over the age of 40, but you could also argue you could target the 20 and 30 somethings who haven't got the problems so it's a much bigger market. If one can take a 1% market share, which is maybe anywhere between 200,000 to 400,000 people a year as members.
Okay.
And if you get the assumption that people are willing to pay 1% of their annual income towards preventative healthcare, which is $700 or roughly about 2,000 dirhams, which today is probably the cost of a test in a clinic in the region, right? So it's not a crazy assumption on spend. You're looking at a business that could be doing revenues of north of $200 million. And then if you apply that into valuation multiples, genomic businesses, which is what this falls under, typically trade at a 4 to 6 times multiple of revenue. So this could easily be a very, very big business in 3 to 4 years with some modest assumptions. But here's the but. Having been round the block enough times, I can't do that on my own. Right? It's about partnerships, because the pie is so big, as you correctly say. It's not about I want this and I want that. If we work together, and we definitely can collaborate with hospitals, with medical groups, with investors, with governments even, to facilitate a wellness or preventative wellness spirit, we change how people's lives are. And don't forget the name of the company is Bien-Etre. It's well-being. That's why I named it that, because that's what we want people to have. But yes, the pie is huge, and it could so easily happen. And that's with very, very modest assumptions.
Okay, so you've secured an exclusive distribution agreement, multi-year distribution agreement with Beyond Blood Diagnostics.
Yes.
I'm reading the notes here, and this is for the GCC.
Yes.
What does that mean?
I am so excited about that. So this is a startup in the UK that was born out of Imperial College.
Okay.
And an amazing team of scientists. And they have developed a rapid longevity test. So from the same blood prick, you can get in 5 minutes your score, because they look at certain biomarkers in your blood, and they've got a system. It's a device that sits probably a bit smaller than the old-fashioned cash register, right? I'm really dating myself with that, because everyone uses those square things now to tap.
I was quite surprised you went to the cash register, but there you are.
Well, there's no substitute for experience. But getting back to what they do, they have got this amazing algorithm that's highly accurate. The scientific data has been accepted. They're working with the British Olympic team to measure performance athletes' longevity and their bloods, right? Okay. So we will partner with them across the GCC, because the one thing I've noticed from a consumer point of view is we live in an instant gratification society.
Oh, we
right?
do.
You know, if you're hungry, there's any number of, I won't name one that I use, but there's any number of delivery services.
Yep.
If you want entertainment, you've got Netflix and everything else, right? And so on.
Yes.
So one thing that we want to do is we want to service the consumer market by giving them a quick score. So the vision is actually to set up and partner with malls and retailers to have longevity checkposts. You could be walking in this mall where you're broadcasting from. You could do your 5-minute test and say, Tim, and we've devised with them, it's our suggestion, a traffic light system. Green, you're good to go, come back in 90 days, 180 days, right? Because there's a score out of 100, but green, right? Amber, you need to have a look at your NAD. Maybe you need to do a longevity test. Red, don't talk to us. Go to the clinic and talk to a proper medical professional.
That seems pretty drastic. If I was, walking around the mall doing my shopping and I thought, I'll just do that, and I got a red signal, I'd be, that would be hard to handle.
It wouldn't be that distracting, but at the end of the day, it's part of the preventative story. You need to be aware of that.
I guess, I guess so.
I know that there'll be some people out there who will hate the shopping on the weekends, who will probably ask us, can you make it red so that we stop shopping, Some spouses out there.
That's one way of looking at it, I suppose.
Sorry, my sense of humour on a Wednesday morning.
Kind of dark, but
it is.
But I'm with you.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay, so you get insights from that. So let's say I come to you and I come to your clinic rather than the traffic light system in the mall. But I say, look, Ali,
it's not our clinic. We're online. It's a digital business. You can do it from the comfort of your home.
Okay, so I decide, I go online and I come to your site and I say to you, right, I want to optimize my health. Yeah, that's all I say to you. What happens then?
So you subscribe. We do 90-day plans because we believe that in 90 days you'll get actionable insights and support. So taking the NAD optimization plan, how does it work? We price it, it's 700 dirhams a month. You can sign up, or if you go through our partners, and you commit for 3 months. And it's not upfront, so it's 700, 700, 700. What do you get? You get a baseline test, the at-home blood prick test that I spoke about earlier on. So you measure your NAD, and within a week of getting that, you get your score in a report, which is personalized, which is your insight. And it'll say, for example, okay, Tim, out of 140, your score for your age and profile should be, 60 or 50, but you're at 30. So we recommend that you start using these following supplements, which as part of the plan. And then for 3 months, you get 3 months worth of supplements, all included in the monthly plan, delivered to your doorstep. What happens on day 90, will actually happen on day 80, is hey, Tim, how are you feeling? You feeling better? Right? We'll obviously be checking in with you along the way, and we have helplines and chat groups, and we're in the process of partnering with a telehealth company because a lot of people will be confused. That's where our clinic partnerships come into it. But along the way, at the end of your plan, you can either continue the plan and do another block of 90. If you're happy, and some people we found in the States with our partners, the labs, some people are happy to test every 180 days their score, and they're just feeling better, so you can continue at a lower cost, just the supplements, right?
Okay.
But the whole point of it is 3 words that I say to you. You gotta test, you gotta optimize, and then you gotta track, and it's a loop, right? And in those 90 days, right, you should suddenly look at your cellular energy. Now, if I look at the data from the States, from our partner, because we're new in this region, so we don't have enough data, but our partner is responsible for 70 to 80% of the NAD testing in North America. So he does a lot of data. He says that out of 100 people, within a month or 4 to 6 weeks, 70% will start to feel better, restore energy, their levels go up, they're generally feeling more healthier, right?
Sure.
23% need a couple of months. That's why we make it 90 months, maybe 8 to 10 weeks.
Okay.
But 93% of people within that 90-day period should be responding to supplementation. 7% won't. So this is not a promise, right? But at least you then need to have further intervention or investigation. Are you one of those 7 in 100 that don't respond to NAD supplementation? But again, that's knowledge, it's power. that's something you can go and talk to your doctor about and saying, look, I've been on this plan for 3 months. I haven't responded. My levels are the same. You know, can we investigate more? Maybe there's some other panels. Maybe it's your homocysteine levels. Maybe it's something else. Again, it's a 90-day plan to optimize your NAD, because that is ultimately the fuel in your body, in your tank.
Okay.
And I think by keeping it at that level, I think it is fairly affordable given the cost of everything else.
I mean, are we more willing than ever to pay? Are people willing to pay a premium for longevity?
I think there'll be people willing to pay a premium for anything, right? At the end of the day, it's what you want out of it. I would rather have something that is more approachable for the vast majority of the people. Now, I've benchmarked the solutions out there. You can go and do an NAD IV drip. They're commonly available without the measurement. They typically cost between 600 to 700 dirhams. So it's a similar monthly price to ours. The problem there is twofold. A, you're doing that blind without measuring where you are.
Okay.
And secondly, drips actually don't work. So the NAD enzyme is large enough that so what happens with the drip is you have 100% that goes into your blood, right? Bioabsorption, right? The problem is the actual precursor, or the NAD enzyme, is too large to permeate into your cells. So honestly, I say this, and I probably, having alienated myself to the skincare community, I'll now tell the NAD IV people.
You might as well.
I may as well. I don't think you get the best results from a NAD drip as you would do from a NAD supplement or precursor. Our precursors only have a 20 to 30% absorption rate as opposed to the 100% from the drips. But the difference is that liquid or that supplement goes straight into your cells. And ultimately what you need is the precursors to be in your cells, not in your bloodstream.
What about the trials, the NAD trials, clinical trials to give us more information? How many trials have there been on the benefits of contributing?
So it's still very early stage. So I can point to 3 clinical trials that have been done at different levels. There is strong clinical evidence that perimenopausal women with insulin resistance respond very, very well to NAD supplementation. That's a fact, right?
Okay.
And you go to any clinics, we're working with some here who actually want to adopt our policy to support that type of patient.
I mean, I've heard that anecdotally a number of times.
Yeah, I mean, it's easily available, the clinical references.
Yeah.
Last week, the University of Oslo published an initial finding that NAD precursors support the Alzheimer's disease retardation. Okay. Now, that is huge. By their own admission, it's very early stage, and it's been done on animals, not human subjects.
Right.
So that's going to probably be another at least 2, 3, 4 years worth of clinicals. But the fact that the initial findings shows that the pathways to kind of mitigate Alzheimer's, there's a link between that. Because don't forget, NAD, not only does it convert your food into energy, it repairs your DNA. It activates your sirtuins, which are basically accelerates your cellular repair. So it does lots of things. It manages your metabolism.
It's known as anti-aging, isn't it? Really,
yeah.
That's
the
way it's been sold in the past.
But think about aging, right? You get forgetful, you get dementia, you get horrible cognitive decline. So NAD, the linkage, and that's what that University of Oslo report initially is preliminary finds. Okay. The other interesting one that actually I was reading up on the weekend, because it was the international break and the Premier League was off. I say that with a smile. Is actually there's been some clinical studies done between chronic bronchitis and NAD, because if you think about it, bronchitis, that chronic cough, that persistent cough that people have, right? Firstly, it's treated all wrongly because it's typically viral, and yet people take antibiotics, as you said at the top of the show. Probably no reason to take antibiotics for a cough.
We know that resistance, happens very quickly.
Right, but if you think about it, some initial research and clinical trials in the States shows that actually what happens in your lungs is that the pathway, the decline, the repair mechanism gets impacted. Okay. And so that leads to a decline of your NAD. In simple terms, you're using a lot more of your fuel, your NAD, to fight off a cough. So if you have a chronic cough, it's a vicious cycle, right? because you've used a lot of your NAD to fight it off. So you're low on NAD,
Yeah.
right? And then you're at risk again. So you get it again. So you get your cough again. And that's a vicious cycle. That's why people have that chronic persistent cough. Now, initial research shows supplementation with precursors of NAD, which are called NR and NMH, which is part of most supplements that have this, actually support the kind of building back up. Again, early days. So I'm the first to say NAD is not this holy solution to everything, but there's enough research, there's enough clinicals to say that people should be looking at their NAD levels and monitoring them, and at the very least maintaining it.
Well, I need to go home and read up on NAD now because, we've used that phrase a number of times and I need to get my head around this. But
Yeah.
do you know what's interesting to me as well is the idea that, health span
Yeah.
shouldn't be a luxury. It should be a fundamental right. Your health is yours.
Correct.
To do with, what you will in many ways. But there's a quote in the notes that you put forward here. And there are a number of things I want to put to you just quickly. But as you say, we should all have the power to take control of our biological destiny. So, and it's incumbent on us, on all of us, to make sure we go to the doctor at the right time, make sure we eat the right things, we exercise fully, and all those kinds of things. One of the things with lots of what you've said here is, and a great deal of it makes great sense to me, is there's a trust is a fundamental in this. Trust in the science, trust in the expertise, trust in you as the founder of a company. How do you grow that? Because this is a new venture.
Absolutely.
And it's not alien to any venture. You've got to be able to trust the things you buy, the people you invest in, etc.
It's very, very simple, right? Think of it as a mathematical equation, right? Trust is a product of two very simple things. It's education and engagement. And that's what we need to do. Because if you educate someone, right, without any vested interest of, I want to sell you something, right? We're not on the sell side. If I said, I've just explained to you and your audience about some of the benefits of NAD, that's education to a certain extent. And we engage and we keep it in very simplistic language, because the other pet peeve I have is that, and this really came from also the skincare industry, but just in general, everyone likes to use really long words that I can't pronounce. And I bet you most of your listeners and people out there who are going about their daily lives, who are dropping the kids at school, going to the grocery store, having to work and do whatever they need to do, right, and make time for themselves, they're not going to have time to Google or chat GPT a very long word with 17 syllables that they can't understand. So that's when I talk about building trust. If you engage with people and you educate them, I don't mind if they don't come to our platform and use our service, right? I'll get shot by my investors for saying that. But actually, I want to build trust. And as long as they take the right interventions to improve their wellness, I would have done something good.
Okay, and is that a driving factor for you? Is that a motivation for you?
It is because I think, look, like any person out there who's had businesses, you've had ups and downs. And it's great when you're on a high and business is going well and cash flow is great and you can treat yourself to some luxuries, right? But like any other person, I've also had challenges, right? And you look at the cost of something and you think, well, I could have afforded that. Or you look at your employees and your team and you look at them with 3 kids and this and that. And that's why I made that statement. Wellness and longevity and health should not be the preserve of the wealthy. At the moment, in certain parts of the world, it is. And our mission is to keep the cost as affordable, right? If our cost is X, we don't need to make 5X. Don't get me wrong. I'm a businessman. I have to make a business. I have to deliver for my shareholders. But there's nothing wrong with making 2X or pricing it at 2X or 1.5X. And going to a greater number of people and improving their lives. I don't have to, take it all from a few audiences and milk it.
Well,
I honestly believe that.
There's nothing wrong with making money if you offer something. I mean, that's the point, isn't it, in business? As much as I'm cynical, I'm very well aware that if you offer something that's reasonable, why not? I'm interested in how you get there.
But I'm interested in offering something that's affordable to, let's say, 10 million people rather than something which is, bells and whistles and beautifully shiny, which does the same thing as what we're offering, to a much more smaller fraction and charging them 10 times more. That's all I'm trying to say.
Jeff Bezos light.
No comment.
I like it. Look, there are lots of things to ask about this. There are loads of things we could go into from a scientific point of view, I think, and I guess there are questions there. But there was one thing in particular that I really wanted to ask you, and I think it probably hit home for lots of people. And you left the UAE and went back to the UK just as the pandemic was about to hit, and you went through a number of, let's say, political upheaval over the ensuing years. But to what extent do you think that COVID-19 made a difference to how we kind of consider our health?
I think it made people more aware. At the end of the day, a lot of people lost loved ones and friends, and it was a terrible moment in history. But it probably made people more aware of their health and their wellness, and to start taking preventative action. So, born from that was this desire to kind of longevity, health span, live well, and live longer.
Well, well-being as a concept it seems to me that it's been around for, I hear it more and more. Well-being, is a thing, is a corporate thing, is a thing in the medical profession, is a thing that we talk about at dinner parties, but it still feels like a reasonably recent kind of piece of phraseology.
I think it's come to the forefront because of media, maybe because people are talking about it more. But at the end of the day, we've talked about biological well-being, right? There's also mental well-being, right? Let's not underestimate that. The challenges people have, mental health challenges, that's all part of well-being. I have a great mate of mine in Canada. He's just launched it's quite an interesting business, which is all about mental well-being. It's an app, and in time maybe we'll try and collaborate with him. Our focus is now very much on what we're trying to do. I'm acutely aware we're an early stage business. It's a small team. It's a passionate team. We work crazy hours. We've got wonderful investors who've come in now. We're open to collaboration, partnerships of all type. It doesn't have to be investment, right? It's to get the mission out there. But well-being is such a huge topic. That's why when you threw out the number of the size of the global industry, it's how you define well-being. It's what life is all about. At the end of the day, you want to enjoy your life. You want to not have the stresses. You want to be fit and able to do whatever you want to do. And I think that if we can democratize health span and longevity, I think we're doing a good thing. And in the process, we build a business that helps people.
Final question for you. You've talked about, the fact that you are a startup. You've got a passionate team. You need that. You're working crazy hours. Where do you want to see the company? What's the end game?
I think if we become the established platform for people to go to take the diagnostic and the supplementation as that first step towards reaching their full potential, I'll be very happy. But I want to focus on the region. The region has been very good to me personally. I had a short hiatus away, but I've been here in the region since the mid-90s. And I think also the ecosystem of the region allows that to happen. The leadership of this country and in general the region, it's very innovative. They welcome these techniques. Other parts of the world, the system is set up not to support something new. Whereas I want to become, over the next 3 to 5 years, the leading platform for wellness longevity at that level. We can never replace doctors. We're never trying to be the first class on a plane, right? There's plenty of people who can do that. But I think the audience is big enough to sit in economy and premium economy, and we have the diagnostic tests, and we have the services and the supplements that can cater and improve a lot more people's lives than currently out there.
Well, Aly, it's been a pleasure to see you again after a number of years. Aly Rahimtoola is the founder of Bien-Etre. It's a UK-based consumer tech startup that uses essentially DNA biomarkers with lifestyle AI data to deliver personalized solutions. So, making life better, I guess. Aly, nice to see you.
Good to see you, and thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome. Nice to have had you here. This is Mira Business FM. You can find us at mirabusiness.fm. That's where we stream, as well as on YouTube. Plus, you can catch up with all the interviews we do, all the guests that we speak to across a number of different platforms, all the usual suspects, whether it's LinkedIn or WhatsApp or, let me think, Instagram, or you know where I'm going with this, etc., etc. Get in touch with us by emailing info@mira.fm or whatsapp.mira.fm will find us if you type that into your browser. For now, this is The Morning Drive, and it's Mira Business FM.